Hello. We often talk on this broadcast about what to do when something stressful happens, or when you're triggered, or when there's something that's just you need to react towards and to act in a healthy way towards. We often talk about something when it's already happening. Today, I want to talk to you about when you start to feel that level of water start to boil, when you're not even completely consciously aware that something is happening, but you already know that there's going to be stress coming or something coming. I'll give you a very specific example. This weekend, I was on a phone call that I'm on every other Saturday, and I really like this call, and it's with colleagues, and I really look forward to it. And I know this is not the kind of call that it's okay for my kids to step in and hang out on. There are lots of calls that it's okay for my kids to step in and go out, but not the specific one. And so I told the kids, hey, we're going to have breakfast, and then you can do this, this, and this. I'm going to be on this call. For some reason, maybe we hadn't played enough that morning, but they wanted to come in on the call. Now, I know many of you are familiar with this same dynamic. And I could feel that before it happened. And sure enough, they came into the call. I asked them to step out. I turned my video off. We went back and forth. They even said hi on the call. That was fine, but then they really needed to go. And I knew this was starting to happen, and then it happened. And that's stressful because I want to get back to the call, but I need to talk to them and ask them and give them options for what they can do. So my question today, and what I've been thinking about, is when that level of water starts to boil, you know when it's happening. So how are 3 ways that you can be deliberate about knowing that that's happening? So let me know, as you are with me today, where have you sensed the level of water start to boil? Not the level of water, but the water itself. It can be with things coming together in conflict at times when you don't need to. It could be your work life and your not work life colliding. So here are 3 suggestions, just 3 today. And let me know in the meantime, where is it that 2 things are colliding in a way where you don't really want them to, or you're sensing that something is happening. For example, you may start to notice tension in a meeting, even in a meeting of, let's say, 6 people. How do you start to diffuse that tension as it's happening, or even notice it, or call it out, or discuss it? So here are 3 ways. So you see, I have a problem, and I immediately think, what's a framework that I could use for future situations with a problem like this? So here are 3 ways to avoid that climax of tension and to cut it off a little earlier. The 3 ways are checklist, notice what you notice, and more time. All right, let me break all of these down and tell me what you agree with and what you disagree with. This one is certainly an exercise in exploration. I've noticed this water level, increasing the temperature of boiling, and I want to decrease it. All right, have a checklist. I find that sometimes having a checklist is super. So for example, with kids, the checklist is, have they eaten a great meal that they're full enough? Do they have something specific to play with? Those kinds of things. Have they run around outside before we come in and I need to sit down at the call? And those are basic, but I also have a similar checklist with work because, for example, I don't want to drop the ball on any specific thing. So when we sit down at the beginning of the week, I and my colleagues to plan for the week, we have that checklist. We're doing this, this, and this. We always take care of reaching out to clients first, then specific people we're coaching, then specific coaches and what requests they have. And it's a 10-item list, but there are about 3 or 4 at the top. So the first thing is, what is your checklist? So that you know some things to pre-avoid that temperature increasing and increasing in the boiling water. First thing, checklist. Second, and this is probably the most subtle, is notice what you notice. So I notice the kids rumbling with each other a little bit, and that's fine. But at some point, you start to notice what you notice, and you can address it in that moment or hope it goes away. And sometimes it'll go away. So that's why I'm saying this one's a little more nuanced. Notice what you notice and notice when you may need to suggest something else. Or again, in a meeting, if you're noticing that pressure build up, I'm a big fan of what I call sportscasting, which is just calling out what you're noticing. I'm noticing we're disagreeing on this. I'm noticing that Joe and Mary have different points of view. But whatever it is, I'm a huge, huge fan of just what I mean by sportscasting is describing what's happening in that room. So notice what you notice and just observe, what does that mean? I'll give you another funny example. And you have seen this. That's the door to my den. And you have seen this many times. I can tell when one of my kids is about to come in because my kids don't usually walk, they run. So they will run, tuk, 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 tuk. I hear that running. And so when I'm on a call with somebody, I will say, hey, we may get interrupted by one of my kids. And sure enough, tuk, 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 and it opens. So just notice what you're noticing a little bit before it happens. I'm telling you, this is the most nuanced and the hardest. So far we've run through 2. Let's go into the third. The 2 we ran through are have a checklist. Whatever is important for you to not happen again, have a checklist for that thing in advance. Second is notice what you notice, and this is nuanced, and there's not a really clear step for what to do when you notice what you notice. Maybe it's let it play out. Let that tension in the room play out. Maybe it's jump in and sportscast and describe the tension in the room. All right, and number 3, more time. This is a decision that you would need to make for more time. Then there are lots of different places that you could give more time. I'll give you 2 of my own, a work and a personal example. But if you give yourself more time for something to happen, you are more likely to put in that buffer for that thing to not go wrong. So if you know that 2 people are going to be in conflict, set aside time. Let's say, hey, for the first 20 minutes of this 1-hour meeting, and by the way, I really prefer 45-minute meetings. For the first 20 minutes of this 45-minute meeting, let's go at it. Let's all put on our most critical hat so we can push at it, push all the buttons. Then for the next 15 minutes, let's look at, hey, what if this were possible? What if one of these directions were possible and we were to go towards it? And then the last 10 minutes, does that end us at 10 minutes? And then the last 10, let's figure out what our action steps are. So that way you give that space more time or dedicated time. So maybe I don't even mean more time, dedicated time towards conflict or towards what may happen. 2 examples from me, and tell me where you are seeing this for you. A more time is, I am writing a piece right now on internal coaching versus external coaching. And it's something we get asked about a lot as an external coaching website company. And there are different situations in which you should do either one of those. But I've written part of the piece. I've asked some colleagues to edit it. It is not appropriate for me to put 30 minutes on the calendar as the amount of time to edit this piece. I know me, and I know I'm going to need at least an hour, probably an hour today and some more time tomorrow. So if I shortchange the time that I give myself, yes, I can work myself into working fast, but I may not give myself the space to do that thing. I'll give you another example, and you're going to laugh at me, and you're going to say, Senia, why are we paying attention to your Believe show and to your coaching tools? Because this is silly. My favorite way of exercise, there's a dance program online that I subscribe to, but the classes are about 40 minutes. So it is pretty ridiculous, but sometimes I will allocate into my calendar 30 minutes and expect that I'll do that dance class and dance routine. It's awesome. It's so great. But obviously, I'm not going to do a 40-minute class in 30 minutes. So what happens? It's okay, I say in my mind. I'll just go the first 30 minutes, and I'll do those last 10 minutes in a different block. But really, it takes me a few minutes just to get to the computer and my workout clothes and hit the button. So by that time, I really have maybe 20 to 25 minutes for a 45-minute class. So I'm completely shortchanging myself. More time. All right, I'm going to summarize. If you feel the water the temperature to increase and start to boil, and you want to recognize that and do something about that before everybody's triggered and things are very intense, here are 3 things I'm trying and you could try. Have a checklist, notice what you notice, and decide how you need to act on that. Notice what you notice, and give yourself more time or dedicated time. If you've already previously noticed that something can be a situation, then for the future, for next time, give yourself slack for that time. Or if you notice it, my gosh, act in that moment. But for the next time, when you're noticing something's happening more than once. Checklist, notice what you notice, more time or dedicated time. Thank you for being with me. Delightful to be with you. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow might be back to cello. Then Wednesday, we have a guest, Meow. You'll be delighted to be with our guest on Wednesday. And join us for the rest of the week. We're here Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific. All the best. See you soon. Enjoy noticing what you notice and cutting that boiling point off before it gets there. Great being with you. See you soon.